You show us that book of Latina.
Yeah.
You see people could. I love the cover, and again, so many good things in there. If you go back and speak to your younger self, little Laurita, if you will, the one that's still trying to figure it out, what would you say to her?
You're doing great. Um, keep that hardworking mentality that your dad always tells us, trabaja mucho, mija. But also take time to enjoy the trabajo. Because we are taught, at least I was raised to trabajar so much, always, nonstop, because that's the livelihood of the American dream.
Hi, my name is Carlos Martin, host of Latino Engine. I had the pleasure of interviewing Laura Moreno Lucas, and I love hearing her story. From the little girl who leaned in with curiosity, raising her hand and saying, "No entiendo, I don't get it," to NASDAQ, to venture capital, to launching her book, Latinas and VCs, to giving back to the community. Her story has multiple layers of success, curiosity, and heart. Please join me in this powerful conversation. This is Latino Engine. Let's roll the show.
Laura Moreno Lucas, thank you so much for being here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Carlos.
Absolutely. What part of the world are you in?
Well, I live in San Francisco. Been here since 2009. So been here through some cycles, but I love it. I love San Francisco. It's a great city. It's amazing energy, and I love the Bay Area because you can go an hour away and hit some amazing wine country sceneries, and then you can also hit the mountains up in Tahoe. So I think we have the best of all worlds around this area.
So, general partner at Latitude, tell us a little bit about that in your role.
So I'm a general partner at Latitude Ventures. We started in 2021 is when we started fundraising, and we closed the fund in 2022, raised $100 million to invest in U.S. Latino and Latina founders at the early stage, being pre-seed all the way to Series A. And today we've invested in 32 companies and deployed over $55 million. And I'm really excited to see all of our companies. I consider them all my babies, and just seeing them grow and really take on what it means to be a growth company and a company that could eventually IPO or public company one day.
Anyone that you could talk about right now that's early that you want to give some light to? And obviously, you have aspirations for all of them, otherwise you wouldn't be invested. But is there one particular company?
Yeah, they're like I mentioned, they're all my babies, they're all my favorites.
Yeah.
But I think, about our portfolio is that we have so many different companies. We're generalist, and then we focus in on areas where we can really help. So what I mean by that is when we started Latitude, we were looking at really unlocking financial access for the broader community as well as Latino and Latinas. And so we invested early on in fintech companies. So there's a company called Listo that's led by Sam, who was giving people the opportunity to capture loans and insurance for cars. So that was one area that he focused on with it that's still doing great today. So very excited about him. So that's the finance sector. And then we have some expertise in deep tech. So we invested in a space company called Novo Space. And what they do is they help build computing chips on satellites. And they've gotten space heritage. And so they've been able to actually get up there in space and activate their technology. And so now we're working with them, potentially with them working with NASA. And so these are unlocking opportunities for entrepreneurs that you can't even imagine, because we see that they're building and innovating in very unique spaces. We have another company, a Latina, who has built it's synthetics, who's built an AI technology that helps scientists get to the chemistry that they need to develop drugs through the pharma industry quicker and faster, so that those compounds come together and you can make the recommendations on what types of drugs that you're going to build quicker and faster through AI. So those are like just a few of the different industries. And then, of course, we have also consumer product goods, which is very unique because a lot of venture capitalists don't invest in CPG, but we've taken that on because of the access that we have to different retail channels through our partnerships. So we have wonderful companies like Nopalera. Nopalera is a bath and beauty company that sells high-end bath and beauty, and she's at over 400 boutiques at Nordstrom's, Credo Beauty, and she's now launching in Ulta, Mexico. So we are extremely proud of her and everything that she's accomplished to date.
You have technology, you have beauty products there, you have AI. That's a pretty damn diversified portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah, I have different people on our team. Myself, we have Sol Trujillo, who's a prolific CEO. We have Oscar Munoz, former CEO of United Airlines. We have Pete Amaro, who was formerly the Rain Group private equity, and then myself, NASDAQ. So we have a big group of expertise and network that we're able to help support these businesses and understanding how to grow and scale them.
That's fantastic. Are there enough of you to be able to invest in Latinos? Is there a need for more VCs within the Latinos?
Absolutely. I think, been well reported that Latino and Latina founders get less than 1% of overall capital, and not even venture and total capital deployed. Institutional capital, we get less than 1%. So it's not even a question that we need more. And then the next question is, why do we get less than that? I think that the founder myself in the past. And when I went through the journey of raising capital, I had a fashion company. When I was building my company, when I went to speak to investors here in Silicon Valley, fashion and technology, if you don't understand the perspective on what I'm building and I'm pitching somebody on the other side who doesn't get it because maybe they don't look like me, they don't understand the opportunity, they don't have that lived experience to see how to unlock that opportunity. It's very difficult because then you kind of to invest in the same things, and that's what's happened in the industry. That they had a playbook where they saw, hey, they're graduates from this school, they look like this type of person, those are the people that we've seen become successful. And because of that playbook, then you continue to do that, but you don't give other people the opportunity. So with us, we've not only been able to access the capital, but we're giving other people that opportunity to come to the table and to deliver just like everybody else.
So to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like there's two sides to the coin. One, yes, the entrepreneurship, the business, but also knowing the vernacular, the industry of venture capitalists, or how to speak to a VC, how to represent ourselves. Is that
Yeah, accurate, because when you come into trying to understand the mentality of raising money in venture, you have to know what you're trying to achieve and be able to describe that very specifically in the way that investors understand how you're going to get to outcomes that they need to invest in your company. So, for example, we have $100 million fund. What does that mean to a company? That means that you need to really articulate how to return not only 100 million, but much more, because we want to invest in companies that are going to 10x, over of the company. So otherwise, you get other assets to invest in if you want smaller returns. So that's why it's important for when founders come to us and are really trying to articulate why is their business going to be a 10x business. They understand how to forecast that. They understand what the revenues it's going to take to drive that. They need to understand how they're going to go to market to capture that opportunity, how they have the expertise to beat the competition in the current environment, who else is going to come along with them, how they're going to build their team, It's just a long laundry list of things, and all of those things, I before I became an entrepreneur, I had no idea. My idea was based on just something that I knew there was demand for, and I had to learn the other things. But the reason why it was easier for me is because I had a career in the financial industry. So because I came with the finance background plus venture and becoming an entrepreneur and learning how to fundraise, that helped me get to where I am.
So what I'm hearing is there's a lot to learn. So this is a good segue. So for me, the VC feels like it's kind of a closed door industry to many. How did you break in and what helped you stand out?
I think that in the past, it's been closed. I think there's, some changes and some opportunities on how venture is being driven today. I would say the thing that led me here, as I mentioned, I in the finance industry straight out of college, not because I wanted to, because I took an entry level position. So when you talk about unlocking opportunities, I actually went to school for criminal justice. I wanted to either go into law enforcement or become a lawyer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it took a turn because when you graduate, you just need to get a job. And so I took an entry level position at this firm down in San Diego as a operations account clerk, and what I realized there was that there was more money flowing through Wall Street that I had ever seen in my entire life, to that point. I wanted to understand further how people were having access to millions of dollars and what they were investing in. So my curiosity then led me to actually try to get licensed as an investment professional, um, getting my Series 7, my Series 63. And so really understanding the investment part of things. And so I worked my way through that company and then left that company and then worked at another financial company. So that helped me get a baseline of understanding Wall Street, how investments were made. And one of the I would recommend to people that want to understand this business is there's a fantastic way to do it today very easily. You turn on CNBC and you follow the public markets. You see what's currently trading, how it's trading. You educate yourself on these businesses and start following some of what you are passionate about or what you are interested in. One of the, like I mentioned earlier, I'm very interested in fashion. So I wanted to see how companies in the fashion industry were doing in the stock market and understanding what was driving Nordstrom's, what was driving Macy's. And all of this information is publicly available. You can pull their financial, they have to do that. You can join their quarterly earnings calls if you're a shareholder. You can do all of these things to educate yourself on how these businesses are trading and what got them to that point and do the research.
Once you were in that ecosystem, you realize how much money there is. Growing up, first gen Latino, coming from Mexico and not having a lot of money, I remember my exposure was very limited. It was
So that's a fantastic way to start to learn about companies and the impacts of how they're perceived by investors and by analysts. And I think that's an easy way to invest small amounts of capital and see how it grows over time.
so if someone wants to become a VC, and yes, they can kind of learn through watching, kind of leading with curiosity. Is there something more in regards to education, networking, and you think if they say, I want to be like Laura, I want to be a VC, what would that look
Yeah, I think that one that people need to understand about having a fund or being an investor is that it takes a lot of money to be an investor. And what I mean by that, that there's sort of three. There's the initial phase on why should I be an investor, and there's different types of investors, as you indicated. There's angel investors where you can again take your own personal capital and invest in these companies early on, assume the risk. There's funds. There's other ways. There's smaller funds you can do smaller funds where they're 5 million, a million, or 10 million, or you can then try to raise an institutional fund, which is what we have at 100 million. So there's different ways to achieve it. And then there's different types of vehicles that some people just do PVs, where you raise money from other people into a vehicle for, let's say, like 3 million or $4 million, and then place that to a company and invest that way. So there's a lot of different ways. I think you need to understand as an individual, why do I want to be an investor and what that mean to me? Do I want to assume having $100 million institutional fund where I have institutional limited partners and I'm beholden to them for 10 to 15-year period and making sure that I return that capital? Is that something that I want to do? Or do I want to do a smaller fund where maybe I deploy that capital very—
That book of Latino,
Yeah.
you see people could. I love the cover, and again, it's so many ribbons in there. If you go back and speak to your younger self, little Laurita, if we will, the one that's still trying to figure it out, what would you say to her?
You're doing great. Um, keep that hardworking mentality that your dad always tells, trabaja mucho, mija. But also take time to enjoy the trabajo. Um, because we are taught, at least I was raised to trabajar so much, always nonstop, because that's the livelihood of the American dream. And I've most recently really have tried to give myself grace to actually feel how I can enjoy all of that hard work before I can't, because what ends up happening is we work ourselves till we're old, and then we're like old and I can't actually enjoy a lot of the hard work. So I'm really trying to allow myself for that and spend time with family and friends, and really reflect in what has been built, and what our families have done and sacrificed for us. So, and absolutely just give thanks to the people that, got me here, from my my mom and dad to my abuelitos to everybody behind them, and feel proud of that. Feel proud of where I came from. I'm a very proud Latina. I wear, my Latinidad on my sleeve. So I will definitely always be very proud to come from Mexico and to share that culture and that enthusiasm of all the wonderful things that we bring to the United States. And I understand, yes, I am in the United States living the American dream, but I also work just as hard as anybody else to live that. And the one last thing I would say to Latinos out there is that, you know, I think some of the things that we struggle with is the scarcity mindset, that there's not enough and there is so much. We just have to work together to unlock all of these opportunities for everyone. And that is something that I hold really dear, is that I want to give others the same opportunities, if not more, to do not only what I've been able to do, but what others have been able to accomplish. And that is something that I think we need to think about a lot as Latinos, because sometimes it's like, if I have this, I can't give this to somebody else. Like, there's enough. There is so much. There is so much.
That scarcity mindset that you're talking about, how do we turn that into an abundant mindset? And I think a lot, at least for me growing up, uh, poor, coming into this country like yourself, not speaking the language, there is scarcity, because that scarcity mindset is a mindset, because at least for me, I'll speak for myself, because there is scarcity. See, we have the mindset because there is scarcity. The scarcity of, I don't speak language, I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that. So it's almost like the survival mode. But at some point, we have that same mindset. And as we work and go to school, how do we shift that from survival mode creative mode. And sometimes I feel like we stay in scarcity mindset. And how do we shift that again to an abundant mindset?
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Our dear friend Jackie has is one of those people who has abundance because
Every time I talk to her, I get out the phone just completely pumped and energized.
yes, because of her energy being the open opportunities that she always brings to everybody. So, yes.
Absolutely. Laura, thank you so much for being here and all your insights and wisdom. And thank you for all the beauty, the conversations Jesse that you told us about. Thank you again. Thank you for putting that book together, Latinas in BC. I'll make sure to put your LinkedIn there so people what's a good way for them to get in contact with you.
Yeah, my LinkedIn is fine. You can also email me, Laura at latitudeventures.com. Very easy to connect with me. So, yeah, happy to connect with folks.
Yeah. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. And again, the only thing that I disagree with you is you're not trying, you're doing.
Oh, gracias. Gracias mucho, Carlos. Thank you.